sad statement of its life's activities at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
All right. Reading from Srimad Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Sripad Param Prabhu Jagacharya Stotra Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki is Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. Jai Go Premanande Hari 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 Bol. Okay, today we are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 11, Text 15. After all those efforts, you got the words wrong. It's supposed to be 15.
15, 10, 15.
Oh, 10 to 15, okay.
11 point.
Oh, that's good. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, 11 to 15, yes. No, 15.
11.10.15?
Yes. 3, 11, 15.
Yeah.
15.
I didn't draw this.
Oh, good. All right. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam. Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Tadojaya Mudiraye. Nashta Prayeshu Bhadreshu. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavate Uttama Shloke. Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. Vakam Karoti Vatsalam Lango Giram Yatkripatamaha Vande Shri Guru Dinathadinam. Yashrija Shaktim Urudochavasyan Swashakyam. Please. Shriya Shaktim Urudoch. Yashrija Shaktim Urudochavasyan Swashakyam. Pumso Abhramaya Dividavati Bhuta Bedaham. Pumso Abhramaya Dvidhavati Bhuta Bedaham. Kalakayaya Gunamayam Kratubi Vidan Vamsha. Kalakayaya Gunamayam Kratubhir Vithan Vams. Tasmai Balim Harata Vatsara Panchakaya. Tasmai Balim Harata Varsara Panchakaya. Yashrija Shaktim Urudochavasyan Swashakyam. Pumso Abhramaya Dividhavati Bhuta Bedaham. Kalakayaya Gunamayam Kratubhi Vitanvams. Tasmai Balim Harata Vatsara Panchakayam. Prabhuji's. Yashrija Shakti Murudochavasyan Swashakyam. Pumso abrahmaya divi davati bhuta bedaham Kala gayaya gunamayam ghratvirvitanvams Tasmai balim harata vatsara panchakayam Yashrija shakti murdo chavasyan svashakyam Pumso abrahmaya dividhavati bhuta bedaham Kala kayaya gunamayam kratuvivitanvams Kala kayaya gunamayam kratuvivitanvams Tasmai balim harata vatsara panchakaya Maharajis Yashrija shakti murdo chavasyan svashakyam Pumsha brahmaya dividavati bhuta bedaha Kala gayaya gunamayam gratuvivitanvams Tasmai balim harata vatsara panchakaya Yashriyaja Gaya gunamayi gratuvivitanvams Tasmai balim harata vatsara panchakaya Thank you. A transliteration. Ya, one who, Shrija, of creation, Shaktim, the seeds, Urudha, in various ways, Uchavasyan, invigorating, Swashaktya, by his own energy, Pumsaha, of the living entity, Abrahmaya, to dissipate darkness, Divi, during the daytime, Davati, moves, Bhutha Bedaha, distinct from all other material form, Kala Akyaya, by the name eternal time, Gunamayam, the material results, Kratubihi, by offerings, Vitanvan, enlarging, Tasmai, unto him, Balim, ingredients of offerings, Harata, one should offer, Vatsara Panchakaya, offering every 5 years. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. O Vidura, the sun enlivens all living entities with his unlimited heat and light. He diminishes the duration of life of all living entities in order to release them from their illusion of material attachment. And he enlarges the path of elevation to the heavenly kingdom. He thus moves in the firmament with great velocity, and therefore everyone should offer him respects once every 5 years with all ingredients of worship. Please repeat after me. O Vidura, the sun enlivens all living entities with his unlimited heat and light. He diminishes the duration of life of all living entities in order to release them from the illusion of material attachment. And he enlarges the path of elevation to the heavenly kingdom. He thus moves in the firmament with great velocity, and therefore everyone should offer his respects once every 5 years with all ingredients of worship. There's no purport for this verse, so we'll just read the next one. Vidra vacha pritra deva manusyanam ayu bharam idam smritam paresham gatim achakshva ye syu kalpad bahir vidam. Vidura said, I now understand the life durations of the residents of the Pita planets and heavenly planets, as well as that of the human beings. Now kindly inform me of the durations of life of those greatly learned living entities who are beyond the range of a kalpa. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The partial dissolution of the universe that takes place at the end of Brahma's day does not affect all the planetary systems. The planets of highly learned living entities like the sage Sanaka and Bhrigu are not affected by the dissolutions of the millenniums. All the planets are of different types, and each is controlled by a different Kala Chakra, or a schedule of eternal time. The time of Earth planet is not applicable to others, more elevated planets. Therefore, Vidura herein inquires about the duration of life on other planets. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapdantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shridhapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrajadam Sahagana Raghunathan Vidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parjana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaganvitam Cha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prashadine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Bhashyate Shatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaham Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratvise Namaham Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosde Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusde Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to Srimad Bhagavatam class. It will be nice if the verse is written earlier, so we don't need to waste 20 minutes waiting for him to complete the verse. On that note, there's two sections here. One kind of finishes with the definition of time given by Maitreya Muni to Vidura. When you are speaking of time, sun is a very important feature because sun kind of defines time within this material world. And so here, Maitreya Muni glorifies Suryadev, the sun planet. So we will talk about sun for a bit, and then we can move to the next part where Vidura starts another set of questions. Sun is one of the most powerful, is the most powerful planet in the universe. It provides heat and light. Because of the heat and light provided by the sun, everything within this material world is regulated. It provides heat, so we can stay comfortable. It provides light, so we can see. When you look at it, living entities, we are, we say, Om Ajnanatamidandasya prayer, we say, we are born in ignorance. Even though we have eyes, we can't, even with the eyes, we can't see unless there is unless there is light. If you take the light factor, even if you have eyes, they're useless. Does that make sense? So that's why we are born in the ignorance. All living entities are born in ignorance. And the sun, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, through the medium of sun, provides the light through which we can see. So if Krishna withdraws that potency of his light through the sun, at night we won't be able to see. We need artificial light to see. So sun plays a very important factor, even in astrology. The sun is considered one of the most important planets. Rahu and Ketu are considered more powerful because they can even eclipse the sun or the moon. But generally, from Parashara Hora Shastra point of view, when Parashara wrote his astrology book, Parashara Hora Shastra, there was no mention of Rahu and Ketu. So the assumption is probably he wrote it before the Rahu-Ketu pastime took place. So in his definition, he says the sun is the most powerful planet in a horoscope. But again, afterwards, Rahu and Ketu comes in, and they are considered more powerful than even sun and moon, because they are tamasic planets, and they can, since we are in the material world, the mode of ignorance can take over any goodness easily. So sun. Also, sun is the instrument through which the seasons are regulated. We get rain because of sun. Seasons are regulated. Say, for example, when the sun moves north of the equator. So the sun moves slowly when he moves north of the equator. So there's summer. There's more heat and light provided. That's why the days are long. When the sun moves south of the equator, he moves slowly, and since he moves slowly, so the nights are long and the days are smaller. And also, by moving north of equator and south of equator, he regulates the seasons. Every 2 months, it's a different season. Every 2 months, the sun moves to every 2 months, and it's a different season. By different seasons, different crops are grown, facilitates different rain, and it moderates the weather. And if it is just summer, if Prabhu mentioned he's from South India. Where are you from, Prabhu? Hyderabad. Anywhere south of Hyderabad, it's just summer. There's no winter. It's quite miserable to live there. I'm from Chennai. The minimum temperature is 25. 23, and so but because of the sun, it makes you quite miserable to live in those conditions. And or you come to the more southern part of the world or more northern part of the world, where sun completely restricts itself. By doing so, it becomes really cold. It becomes very cold. So the sun moderates how the earth works, or how the seasons work, and things like that. And also, as I mentioned, sun also provides rain. So the water in this planet is stored in the oceans in the salty form. I was listening to a lecture where Prabhupada said, Krishna is so expert, he knows how to store the water. If this water is not salty, it'll become stale. It'll become stale or something if it is just stored for a long time. But Krishna stores it with salt, so it's preserved in the oceans. And through the sun, it evaporates the salty water, and through the clouds, it showers as rain, as a purified water for human consumption. So that you can see how the water is, goes back and stored in the ocean, and then sun regulates it. So sun plays a vital role in sustenance of life. In winter, or in people living in cold weather, in northern hemispheres, or not northern, in Arctic hemisphere, Arctic regions, they don't get enough vitamin D, and because of that, it actually affects your mental performance. You have to take artificial doses of vitamin D. Even in winter, it's recommended that we go and spend some time in the sun, so our body regulates, generates the necessary vitamins required. So in this way, you can see sun is essential for our living entity. For a living entity. And again, sun, as a modern scientist say, it is not just a globe stationary in the middle of the universe. According to Bhagavatam, sun is actually moving. Sun is mobile. It travels in a very fast pace, and it's also considered a heavenly planet. It is not, according to the modern scientists, it's just a huge globe of fusion reaction, and where hydrogen is bombarded, and then it's just producing a lot of heat and light due to nuclear reactions. That might be the case, but it is considered a heavenly planet, where people who reside there have a much more superior lifestyle than compared to us. To the extent the heavenly planet, sun is considered such a heavenly planet, people even perform certain ritualistic ceremonies so they can take birth in sun, because it's considered such a heavenly planet. Of course, they will be provided with the necessary body to take birth so that they can enjoy the facilities there in sun. So again, sun is not a globe. It's sun is a planet, and sun planet is ruled by a person by the name Vivashwan. What is that verse in Bhagavad Gita? Vivashwan. Sorry, what? Pravarti. Yeah, the Vedic knowledge was first taught to sun. So, and from him, one of the dynasties, the Kshatriya dynasties, come from sun. The Kurus, the Sun dynasty, come from. He's a progenitor of the Kshatriya dynasty, comes from him, and from the Moon dynasty comes the Yadus and the Chandravamsa comes in. So there are two dynasties which rule this planet. One is coming from the sun and one comes from the moon. And all other luminaries, they reflect uh, the light of sun. So they all reflect this light of sun. And and he, because of the presence of sun, even in 5th canto it is said, one can understand the higher planetary systems because of the presence of sun, so we can see the higher planetary systems. And because of the presence of sun, we understand the lower planetary systems and the earthly planet. In the Brahma Gayatri in Smarta tradition is pointing or worshipping the sun. The first Gayatri we chant it's the Gayatri worshipping the sun. In the first Gayatri, the Bhur Bhuva is a two planetary system, and right in the middle is where sun is located, between the Bhur and Bhuva. And the sun is called, his other name is called Martanda because he splits the universe into equal halves. He's present in the middle and he splits the universe into equal half. So he's called Martanda. And also the other name, Martanda, the other meaning of it is this whole material universe is an egg, it's like an egg of ignorance. And sun enters into the middle of it and divides into two and eliminates this universe. And that's why he's called Martanda. So when it comes to demigod worshippers, even Vaishnavas, have a very high regard for worship of sun. Say in Valmiki Ramayana, in the Yuddha Kanda, fighting with Ravana. Ravana is a formidable force. It's very hard to, he couldn't be defeated. He was very powerful. So Rama apparently gets very tired fighting with Ravana, because Ravana is an expert fighter. So Rama apparently gets tired. So looking at Rama's tired state, Agastya Muni, Agastya Muni is, he usually travels around the southern parts of India, and he saw Rama in a tiresome state, and he goes and instructs him a set of prayers for him to chant, and those prayers are stuti, or prayers for sun god, and the prayers are called Aditya Hridayam. Anybody heard of that? Aditya Hridayam? It's not that famous. It's more famous within the Vaishnava community. The Smartas, they don't know much about it. It's a set of prayers given by Agastya Muni to Ramachandra to chant. And by chanting, it's a set of prayers which glorifies Aditya. Aditya Hridaya means it's heart of Aditya. So it glorifies sun god. And it is said that by chanting this mantra 3 times a day, one can rejuvenate oneself. So Ram chanted this mantra, meditated on this mantra 3 times a day. By doing that, he was rejuvenated, and by being rejuvenated, he was able to go back and fight Ravana. So even to highlight the importance of sun, so you can see even Rama plays that pastime, glorifying the sun god, and he even apparently chants to get the strength to fight. So this Aditya Hridayam prayer, generally in astrology, you recommend these prayers, not devotees of course, in mundane astrology. It is recommended when people have some serious illness, or if people have enemies, so they are recommended to chant this Aditya Hridayam prayers, so it rejuvenates one's health. If there's somebody having some chronic illness, they're recommended to chant this Aditya Hridayam. And even people who have some planetary inflictions, they have a really bad period going on, they're really struggling, and in mundane astrology, they're recommended to chant the Aditya Hridayam prayers. By chanting this, it helps them, relieves them of any affliction in their astrological chart. And the sun travels through the Kala Chakra. In Kala Chakra, it's like, people have seen the horoscope, with 12 houses, so it's a representation of the sky, and then sun travels through those different houses. Every month he's in one quadrant, one house. So when he's in Mesha, which is what is Mesha in English? Aries, and when he's in Tulam, which is Libra, the days are same, equal days. When he's in Aries and in is it Libra? Libra, yeah. Tulam is Libra, and from when he moves gradually from Aries towards Aries, Taurus, Mesha, Rishabha, Karaka, and Gemini and Cancer. When he moves, the day gradually increases, and then when he comes to Simha, the days gradually decrease. And then when it comes to Tulam again, the day and night becomes equal, and then when again the cycle starts from Scorpio or Vrishaka all the way to Meena. In various houses when he travels, and so when he's traveling in the north, that is from Mesha, from Simha all the way to Makara, that is Capricorn, it's considered Uttarayana. The sun is on the northern cycle, and when he's traveling from Capricorn, which is Makara, towards Meena, and it's called Dakshinayana. So it is said, one has to give up their body in according to yogic understanding, one has to give up their body in Uttarayana, where sun is on the northern spectrum. So he's eliminating the northern sky, which is towards the heavenly planets. So it is encouraged, the yogis to give up their bodies towards when the sun is on the northern cycle. And similarly, when the sun is on the southern cycle, it kind of points towards hellish planet or lower planetary systems. So it's understanding that when a person gives up their body, when the sun is on the southern trajectory, he's heading towards lower planetary system. Of course, for devotees, these parameters doesn't matter. This is more for people who are following karmakhandic, Vedic karmakhandic approach towards upliftment. For devotees, doesn't matter, sun going towards north or south, doesn't matter. As long as he's remembering Krishna, his path to liberation is eliminated. Sun also, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, what is that verse? Second chapter, Sitoshna Sukha Dukkadahi. He also kind of teaches by the extremities. He teaches the living entities with the extremities. It's hot and cold. Makes you miserable. Asking yourself, why am I here suffering? He kind of moderates it, makes the living entity think. And he also, people who are materialistic, he also reduces their lifetime by day and night. He's killing you every day, killing living entity. Not devotees don't die. A materialistic person is killing every day and night. That analogy given in Bhagavatam, the two rats. Is it two rats, isn't it? Two rats eating the rope where a person is hanging, and the two rats are considered day and night, which is gradually eating off a person's lifetime. So an intelligent person looks at it and say, look, the sun is taking my life every day, so this is not a permanent situation. One should, I should focus on something shreya, something more permanent than prayer or temporary things. So that kind of gives that intelligence also. Because he's a pratyaksha devata. Pratyaksha devata means he's a demigod who you can actually see. Sun and moon are the only demigods you can actually see with your naked eyes. They are available to see. That's why most of the cultures, the Mayan culture or the Greek culture, their predominating deity is sun. The Mayans worship sun, and the Greeks worship Apollo. So, because he is Pratyaksha Devata, you can see him. Of course, devotees, we don't get too much involved in worshipping demigods. We worship Krishna. Krishna is the, what is it? As I was reading in Bhagavatam, this is a prayer. I think it's in 5th canto. I think it's 5:20:10. I think 5:20:10. Oh yeah. So Sumeru, we heard of the Sumeru mountain, description of Sumeru mountain, and surrounding the Sumeru mountain is Jambudvip, and it's called Jambudvip because there's a jamun tree. It's a kind of a berry we used to eat when we were young. There's a jambu tree, and then surrounding that is another tract of land called Palakshadip. Palaksha means Palaksha is what is that? Jackfruit. Am I right? Anybody knows? Palaksha is jackfruit tree. And that tract of land is named after the predominating tree, jackfruit tree. And the residents of that particular tract of land worship Surya, worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the image of Surya. And the prayer they offer is here. Let us take shelter of Sun God, who is the reflection of Lord Vishnu, the all-expanding Supreme Personality of Godhead, the oldest of all persons. So, the Sun God is the reflection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, he reflects the light, effulgence of the Lord. And all other luminaries, they are reflecting the the light of the sun. So, the source is Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And so, Vishnu is the only worshipable Lord. He is the Vedas, he is religion, and he is the origin of all auspicious and inauspicious results. So this is the prayer what the residents of Palakshadip worship the sun god with. And by worshipping this, with this prayer, they go to sun planet. What is that? What is that verse from Bhagavad Gita? Yanti deva vrita deva prithvi yanti pritirvrita bhutani yanti bhutegya yanti mam yajanti mam yanti avyayam, something like that. So those who worship demigods go to the demigods, those who worship the pitras go to pitras, and those who worship other living entities take birth where those living entities take birth. And those who worship me or Krishna come to me. So by here in this verse, Judge chanted from the residents of Palakshadip, they worship the sun god, and they go to the sun planet. And when the sun planet, Vivashwan, goes back to Godhead, they also along with him go back to Godhead. But it's a very slow process. But so that's a path they chose to, or they had the privilege to. So these are some of the glorifications of sun. Even in Brahma Samhita, Yashakshuresa Savita Sakala Grahanam, all the planetary system, including the sun, they're all revolving around in their orbit because of the fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even in Taittiriya Upanishad 2.8, it is said the same thing. The wind is blowing out of the fear of the Lord. The sun is rising out of the fear of the Lord. The moon is rising out of the fear of the Lord. The air within our body is circulating because of the fear of the Lord. And the fire, different fires in our body regulating the air, is also working because of the fear of the Lord. So they're all performing their activities because of the fear of the Lord, because of Krishna's presence. So even though the sun may be a very dominant demigod within the material world, but when one who has a clear understanding knows even sun is depending on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and is acting out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's some glorification on sun. The next verse where Vidura starts a whole different topic about inform the duration of life of those greatly learned living entities who are beyond the range of kalpa. So, I guess till now we saw a different life cycle of different entities within the Bharatavarsha, and where the first dissolution takes place. Now Vidura is talking about living entities who reside beyond the first dissolution. The modern understanding is there's no living entities in other planetary systems. They are pretty much desert or rock, non-inhabitable. But Srimad Bhagavatam has a different opinion, a different view. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, all the planetary systems are full of life, and they all have different lifestyles and different lifespans. Like even within the material world, we can see ant. If ants, according to the ant's lifestyle, it lives for 100 years. Compared to a human, that 100 is quite less to what we live. And a mosquito lives for a day. It takes birth, grows into adult, reproduces, kills few hundred people in the meantime, and then dies. Within 24 hours, its lifespan is over. That's 100 years for a mosquito. But when you compare that to human beings, we live a lot more number of 100 years compared to a mosquito. Similarly, we living entities here, we live a nominal 100 years, if you're fortunate. And people who live in a higher planetary system, like the demigods, for them 6 months is 1 day and 6 months is 1 night. They have a longer duration of life. And similarly, Brahma has even longer duration. So when in one Brahma's day, the whole material universe manifests. The lower planet, the material universe manifests. And when Brahma goes to sleep, certain planets are dissolved. They get dissolved. But the certain planets between Brahmaloka and there are certain planets which still persist even when Brahma goes to sleep. So these planets which dissolve, that dissolution is called partial dissolution. And the planets which persist, they get dissolved in the complete dissolution when actually Brahma dies. When Brahma finishes his 100 years, the entire universe under Brahma's jurisdiction gets dissolved. So here, Vidura is talking about, inquiring about what is the lifestyle and how people live who are not affected by the partial dissolution. These are generally, I guess, it's Makara Loka, any Loka on top of Makara Loka, all the way to Brahma Loka. And so let's see what Maitreya Rishi says about these living entities who occupy the planetary systems which are not affected by partial dissolution. Again, all these planets, even the higher planetary systems, which are not affected, Sun is the one who moderates even those planetary system. As Sun goes around our equator, similarly it revolves around those planetary systems, and their day and night is all regulated by Sun. And Sun has a different Kala chakra compared to what we have. We have 12 houses, and every month it goes through those 12 houses. Similarly, higher planetary systems have their own version of 12 houses where the Sun travels. It's 5 minutes to 9. I can keep talking, but if you have any questions, comments, I encourage. Yeah.
Well, this is regarding the path of the Sun.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know if the path of the Sun is instrumental in fulfilling the karma, or
Yeah, path of the Sun. Yeah.
or is it that, let's say, through the words if I am a pious person, supposed to live in planets, but happen to die when the Sun is on the descending path, does that mean that the Sun influences me and takes me to the evolution?
Yeah, look, I'm no expert in. It's quite complex. These concepts are. I'll just speak of my understanding. How, from an astrology point of view, various planets are witnesses. All these luminaries are witnesses of the activities you perform. A person might think, I'm doing these things, nobody would know. If I'm stealing something, nobody would know. But, all these planets are our witnesses. And they know what are the good or bad deeds we have done in past life. And by reading those planets, in your chart, then we can say, these are the activities or karmic activities or suffering or enjoyment a person has to go through within this lifetime. So they act as a witness per se. When it comes to they are not necessarily administering. What you're asking is who is administering the pious activities. Did I understand that question? No, they're not actually. Anyway, I'll come to that. They're not administering. They're just a witness, and they're merely showing where things are. Activities performed. Krishna is the administrator. He is the supreme administrator through his various agencies. Through the agencies of Yama. He administers the good or bad deeds. The birth and birth and death, and what you go through between that. So, okay, what is your question? I didn't understand. I thought I understood, but not.
Two scenarios.
Yeah.
The first one is, does the path of the Sun, is it instrumental in fulfilling my karma? For example, let's say if I'm simple, and I'm supposed to go with hellish planets.
Yeah.
Does that mean that I will only die when the Sun is on the descending path, and I won't die when the Sun is on the descending path? Or
Yeah.
if I'm a simple person and I happen to die when the Sun is on the ascending path,
Yeah.
does that then take me instead to the coming planets instead of
Yeah. I understand. So these are indications for a person who is living a pious life. It's an encouragement to do those things. If you're living a karmakandic life, which is based on, I perform this, so I want to get this. If you're living that kind of lifestyle, these are the indications provided. It's like when you go bushwalking or something like that, and there's no signs, people tie a ribbon, so you're on the right direction. Have you seen that? No. So, if you go to very remote places, they kind of leave some, obvious, because there's no signs. So these are indications. Not necessarily the Sun is the one who is awarding this. That's not the understanding. These are the indications provided. So we can do the right choice for people who are performing karmakandic activities. For people who are completely, these are all injunctions for people leading in a pious, varnashram-based structure where they choose to take the karma kanda, jnana kanda, marga, or yogic marg, and they decide to take those processes, these are the indications for them to how they have to progress. So if you're a yogi, your indication is, you give up, try to give up your life in Uttarayana. But if you're a sinful person, all these rules and regulations, this indication doesn't really matter. Does that make sense? Now, if you're following a certain prescribed path, and within